Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, let's do this. Welcome to Locked On Warriors, the only Warriors podcast that you're getting every day, Monday through Friday. And this week, we are all about the NBA draft, which is happening Thursday night. So we've had a bunch of content for you throughout the last few weeks. Connor Letourneau from the San Francisco Chronicle joining me today has been a staple of our Tuesdays show. We're calling them Tuesdays over the last few weeks. Connor, what's up, man?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me, as always.
Yeah, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about what the Warriors' options are at 7. We're going to talk about the latest draft buzz, what you and I are hearing as the draft gets closer. We'll talk a little bit about Bradley Beal, whether or not the Warriors should go all in on him. And then, of course, we will wrap up the show with Tuesday trivia. We've got a fun theme for you, Connor, today. So we'll get to all that a bit later on. But the number one thing I wanted to talk with you about is this idea of Jonathan Kuminga possibly falling to number 7. Kaminga was at one point, we go back a year now, people thought that he could be the number 1 pick in this draft, in what is a loaded draft. For most of the year, he's been a consensus top 4 or 5 guy, and lately he has been the faller of this draft. A lot of mock drafts have the Warriors taking Kaminga at 7, Kaminga falling there, them having that opportunity. Do you think that the Warriors, if Jonathan Kuminga is there, should they take him at number 7?
Should they take him or will they take him?
Both, I guess.
I believe they should take him. I believe they should take him because he has by far the most upside of anyone who would be available at that spot. I think he has all-star potential. I know that he's a little bit more of a project than a lot of scouts believed a year ago. But I think they're in a position where they don't necessarily want or need both of their lottery picks, assuming they keep both lottery picks, to be rotation guys. You look at who they have now, who they're trying to get in free agency and what have you, and I don't think there's a ton of roster spots necessarily available. And so I think it'd be fine rolling the dice on someone like Kaminga, who has all the scoring upside and physical tools that you look for in a top 10 pick. And then you use the 14th pick to take someone who is more of a plug-and-play guy who can serve a real role next season off the bench. But, and obviously I'm sure we're going to get in and talk about the Bradley Beal possibilities. Any sort of big swing that the Warriors would want to make, whoever they take at 7 and 14 would probably need to be packaged in that. And Kaminga does have the most trade value of anyone who'd be available there. And I think that needs to be considered. As far as will the Warriors take him, my understanding is that the front office and the scouting department is very split on Kaminga. They were really impressed with his start to the bubble, but they have concerns not only about how he played the rest of the bubble, but his makeup. He shut down early in the bubble with a minor injury. He has a reputation of being a loner. My understanding talking to people is his people have been hard to get a hold of throughout the process. There's concerns about like how ready not only him but his camp is for this type of opportunity. When you're investing tens of millions of dollars into someone, that stuff matters. And so there's some red flags, maybe not red flags, but yellow flags around him. And but I really believe if push comes to shove and he's available, they'll take him because ultimately the upside is just too intriguing.
I get that. I don't think that they should take him if he's there at 7. And that's even if Book Night is not available. I don't really think that there's a reason to take Kaminga. This idea that, first of all, as much upside as he may have, the Warriors don't have the means to tap into that upside. Kaminga needs years of playing time and freedom and leeway to sort of explore all of his skills because he doesn't really know what he is yet at the NBA level. and wasn't all that impressive down the stretch in the G League. And there's a belief that he's really raw. And if he's that raw, then he's going to need a lot of playing time and a lot of leeway to blossom into what I think he's got as much upside as anybody in this draft. I just don't think the Warriors could tap into that upside. They just don't have the means. They don't have the resources. Now so you have that.
Sorry, to build off what you were saying though, I think kind of to go against my own argument of what I was saying earlier, him at his best is not someone who necessarily fits the Warriors system. He's a guy who's a bit of a ball stopper, a guy who's good in ISO one-on-one.
And the Warriors could use somebody like that, but he's just not even close to being that right now. Like, I think Kuminga's upside is Kawhi Leonard. And if he goes and becomes Kawhi Leonard somewhere else, then I think a lot of Warriors fans will be like, oh my God, we could have had this guy. But what I would tell Warriors fans 5, 6, 7 years from now is, even if the Warriors would have drafted him, he would have never turned into that. Wherever he ends up, if he does turn into that, it'll be a situation like Giannis early on in Milwaukee, where it's like, hey, just go do stuff, go figure it out. And the other part,
can he do that in the G League though? I mean, I think if they take him, I think that if they take him at 7, they just need to take all the pressure off of him, learn from the Wiseman situation from last season, and say, look, you're going to spend a lot of time in the G League this year. You're going to be our go-to guy of our G League team, and just try to bring him along slowly and hope that, the following season or, year 2, year 3, he's able to be a real factor.
You can't. What you need at this pick is somebody who could be in your rotation, whether or not you move this number 7 pick in a trade, which we'll talk about later on, or could be in your rotation at some point soon. You can't play the number 7 pick in the draft in the G League for 2 years. You just can't do it. I don't think that the Warriors, as much as we learned from what we saw them with the James Wiseman situation last year, they don't have that kind of patience. I think at most you would see him play in the G League for half a year, and then at some point the demand would be like, hey, we need this guy. The other thing is too, I don't think the Warriors can afford to play him. Like, they need wing depth badly. Like, Kelly Oubre is not coming back, right? Like, Klay Thompson, we don't know what he looks like. They need wing depth. And if you draft Kaminga, they will need him to play some minutes in some way or another. The other part of this too, the other idea is, hey, if you take Kaminga, you can move him, you could trade him, and he's got immense value. Why do we think that? This is the guy who's sliding down draft boards. How much value does he really have? Yeah. If he had all this value, he wouldn't sliding down draft boards. I don't think that there's any reason why the Warriors should take Jonathan Kuminga. And if you are, and whatever that is buzzing, you need to turn that off, Connor. That's not great radio.
Sorry. I don't know.
Worries. Whatever you do with the 7th pick, I don't think you could take Kaminga. And if you're Bob Myers and you're afraid of Kaminga becoming something great somewhere down the line or whatever, and you're not confident enough in your own evaluations of other players on the board, then you've got other problems. Like, there is just, to me, no reason why the Warriors should take Kaminga unless they are certain that there is a deal to be made with Kaminga. If they know that Bradley Beal is an option for them and that the Wizards would want Kaminga in that deal, then you take Kaminga. But you have to be 100% certain that if you take Kaminga, that you are trading Kaminga. Other than that, there's no reason to take Kaminga.
No, you make a point. I mean, look, I haven't heard any reports or chatter out there that teams are trying to trade up to 7 for the possibility of drafting Kaminga, or even up to number 6 to draft Kaminga. I think the entire league is down on Kaminga right now. I think he has benefited from the fact that he was just pegged as a top 5 pick for so long that there's like this mental thing that happens where you're oh yeah, he's top 5 pick. But then you get closer to the draft, and this happens every year. You get closer to the draft and you really start analyzing him and looking at him in a detailed way, and you're like, oh wait, why did we think he was a top 5 pick?
Yeah. And I'm not convinced, by the way, that the Thunder are going to pass on him at 6. Like, there's a lot of reasons for Oklahoma City to take him, right? Number one, that's kind of their MO, to take really like athletic, long guys whose skills are basketball skills are questionable. So that's kind of the type of player that they've taken in the past. The other reason for that is I don't think Oklahoma City wants to be picking 6 again. I think they want to be picking 1st, right?
Yeah.
And so there's something to be said about taking Kaminga and being like, let's just give him the ball, see what happens. And if we suck, great. We suck. And then we're in position to have the #1 pick next year.
I've heard that OKC is all about the 2022 draft, that they love Shea Holmgren and the guys who would be at the top of that draft. And they're already thinking about that draft. And in a lot of ways, Kaminga makes a lot more sense for Oklahoma City than he does the Warriors. They could give him plenty of playing time. Yep. They could bring him along in an NBA environment. So I think it makes sense for them, but all the reports are that they like Bouknight. Who knows if that's smoke and mirrors? Who knows what Sam Presti has up his sleeve? I could very well see them pulling off a trade tomorrow, given all the assets they have, but maybe even trading back. But I think that they're probably, if they keep the pick, it sounds like they're probably going to take Bouknight. In which case, the Warriors are in a fascinating position. Like, this is the reason we're talking about this as long as we are, is because it's a really difficult spot for Bob Myers to be in. It's not easy to just pass on Kaminga, because, like you said, he could be Kawhi Leonard. Like, I'm not saying he will be, but like, he has a chance to be that, and no one else available in that range is even going to be.
You think about what every NBA team wants is a apex predator scoring wing who can guard multiple positions. That's what Kaminga projects to be. All of that stuff is really enticing. Like I said, I don't think the Warriors can turn him into that. You know, there's one thing to have that potential, but you and I have talked about this many times. So much of what a player needs is about situation, right? We talked about this in a much smaller scale with Marquise Chris, for example, right? A couple of years ago. So much of this is situation, and it sounds a little counterintuitive. Most people be like, "Oh, the Warriors are a great situation. Who wouldn't want to be drafted to the Warriors? Winning environment, great coaching, player development staff is revamped, etc." But it's not the right situation for Kaminga. It's just not. One name that I would watch, by the way, for Oklahoma City is Keon Johnson. That's a name that I've heard at #6 that they'd be interested in, a little bit off the board. But if that were to happen, then Bouknight and Kaminga would be available, presumably, unless something crazy happened at 5, for the Warriors there at #7. I want to talk to you a little bit more about that, what the Warriors should do at #7 here in a moment. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of vehicle makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all of the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand that their warehouse happens to carry? You have a computer with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer, and they have everything you could need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. So go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck, and then write "Locked On" in their "How did you hear about us" box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Back here now with Connor Letourneau from the San Francisco Chronicle on the Tuesday. We were talking about what the Warriors should do at #7 in Thursday's NBA draft. I don't think they should take Kaminga. Let's talk about the situation where I'll put them all on the board, Connor. Bouknight, Kaminga, they're both on the board. What do you think the Warriors should do? What do you think they will do? I'll kind of let you take that in any direction.
I honestly hadn't thought about that possibility because I've just been of the mind that Oklahoma City is going to take Bouknight or Kaminga. But Presti has a penchant for surprising people. You know, he very well could take Keon Johnson, whose stock has seemingly been falling actually in recent weeks. If they're both available, I would fully expect the Warriors to take Bouknight. My understanding is that they have Bouknight ahead of both Kaminga and Mitchell on their board. And I think they really like Bouknight. From what I've heard, his workout was incredibly impressive. They saw things in his game that he didn't show at UConn, They really are impressed with him as a person. He kind of fits the ethos of what they're about, which, as we know, matters a lot to them. So I think that they're hoping that Bouknight is available at 7, and they'll take him at 7 if he's there. But if he's not there, then it becomes much trickier, because I think that there would be a big debate over, do you take someone like Mitchell at 7 or Kaminga? I also think there's a couple other names that could be in that discussion as well.
Well, let's talk about those names. The names that I've heard: Josh Giddey, Moses Moody. Those are the other guys that a lot of people think that are in that kind of zone for them. I haven't heard as much of the Moody stuff as maybe some others have. I think they like Moody. I don't know that they like him more than a guy like Josh Giddey at number 7. Another name I'd like to throw in there is Franz Wagner. And I want to bring him up because his whole pre-draft stuff has been very mysterious. I asked him point blank, did you work out for the Warriors during draft interviews? And he said that he's keeping all of that secret for strategic reasons. So I've also heard that he might have a promise at to Sacramento at number 9, right? Kings are choosing at 9. I don't think he falls past Sacramento, but I do think that he should be in consideration for the Warriors. We don't know if he's worked out for them. We don't know if he's interviewed with them. We don't really know the extent, but he does think he would be a good fit in Golden State, as I'm sure he thinks he's going to be a good fit for all the teams in the top 10. What do you think about Wagner's fit with the Warriors?
I think he's a great fit. I think that he is the prototypical complementary piece that the Warriors love. He's very versatile, sound defensively, plays within the flow of the offense, smart, good feel for the game, all those things. Think he makes a lot of sense as a guy who could come in and be a plug-and-play option. I think he could come in and be, an 8th, 9th man next season. I still don't think that he should be seriously considered at number 7, though, because I don't think he has the upside. I know he's relatively young. He's not very athletic. He's more athletic than his brother, but he's not particularly athletic. I don't think he has the type of upside you want from a top 10 pick. I think if he was available at 14, the Warriors should be ecstatic and take him. He will not be available at 14. Everyone is saying his range is really small. It's 8 to 10, with all 3 of those teams liking him. And the popular pick right now.
Would you be comfortable taking him from 8 to 10? Because what's the difference between taking him 8 to 10 and just taking him at 7?
I wouldn't be. I personally wouldn't be. I know that that's his range, but I wouldn't. If I'm Sacramento, I wouldn't take him at 9.
My friend Jonathan Charks over at The Ringer wrote this about Wagner. There's something about trying to draft a star at the top of the draft, and there's another thing about getting a guy who could star in his role. And what we have seen time and time again in the NBA is that guys who could defend multiple positions and hit open threes the way that Wagner can, they have so much value in today's NBA. You look at a guy like in Phoenix, Cam Johnson, who people laughed at the Suns taking him as early as they did, because a lot of people thought he was more of a late first rounder, second round type of prospect. And he's not going to be a star for Phoenix anytime soon, but his role was so important when he is playing next to stars. And the Warriors are interesting in that they already have their star players. And so, yeah, maybe in most cases I would agree with you. At number 7, you need to get a guy who has some sort of star potential, but the Warriors don't really need that. The Warriors have their stars. I understand the desire to maybe pair the number 7 pick with James Wiseman, and hey, now we have our future building blocks and all these things, but I think that there's a lot to be said about just getting a guy who can play 25 minutes a night, 30 minutes a night for you, which Wagner can. He's a really good playmaker. He averaged more than twice as many assists than turnovers, which is, by the way, something James Bouknight can't say. In fact, Bouknight is basically the inverse of that. Makes really quick decisions with the ball in his hands. He's either going to shoot, pass, or attack closeouts. He has the length at 6'9", size at 225 to play both positions. I think the Warriors look at him as more of a power forward than a small forward, but that's okay. I think he could still play either forward spot. And you could just, with how much there's such a huge need for the Warriors on the wing that I like the pick of Wagner more than even a guy like Bouknight, just because with Bouknight, there might be some redundancies with Jordan Poole, but this team has such a need at wing, and I don't know that they're going to... I think they'd have an easier time finding a backup point guard in free agency than they would a backup wing, because like I said, those types of players are so valuable that the value of those kinds of guys, the price tag of those guys tends to be driven up, where the point guard depth in this free agent class is so deep that those guys, their value might be driving down. So if you take like the whole offseason as a whole, you might be better off going wing here. Wagner is one of the names that I'm looking at. The other name that I'd be looking at, Connor, is Josh Giddey, who the Warriors are high on. We've heard his name in regards to the number 7 pick. What do you think about the Warriors potentially taking Giddey at number 7? Because I actually like that pick. I'd like that idea a lot too.
Let me say one thing about Wagner. I've just in the past few days, I've talked to several people in the Warriors organization. Not one of them has mentioned Wagner as a possibility at 7. My understanding was that they looked at him as a possibility at 14, and then when it became clear that he was not going to be available at 14, they just stopped worrying about him. They don't look at him as a possibility at 7, is my understanding. Now, they might be trying to pull the wool over our eyes.Maybe they have an agreement with Wagner where both parties are going to be really quiet about all this and shock us all on Thursday. It's possible, but I have no reason to believe that he's in serious consideration. The names that I've heard just in the past couple of days being linked to 7 are Kaminga, Bouknight, Mitchell, and Giddey.
Yeah.
Moody is not being considered at 7 anymore, is my understanding. He is being considered at 14 because his stock is falling. He very well could be available at 14. So of those names, we've talked about all of them a little bit except for Giddey. Giddey, to me, should be in serious consideration at 7 because he has a nice mix of supreme upside while still being able to help you next season. I think that he has as much upside as anyone who would be available at 7 outside of maybe Kaminga, but he has a skill set right now that can translate to the NBA. He played at a relatively high level overseas in Australia, was led that league in assists, amazing decision-making. I talked to one scout a while ago who said that he liked Giddey more than LaMelo Ball, entering the draft at least, which might be a little hyperbolic, but still, I mean, he in some ways was more polished in Australia in the same league that Ball was than Ball was a year ago. So, I mean, and he's only 18. He turns 19 in October. I think he could come in right away and play a role as a secondary ball handler, and I think he's better defensively than a lot of people realize. He has the size. He kind of fits what the Warriors like and versatile wings. I love him as a prospect, and I think there's been buzz that Memphis traded up to 10 to try to take Giddey at 10. Well, guess who's drafting before 10? I think the Warriors honestly should. I think that even if Kaminga is available at 7, they should give Giddey a hard look. I would personally like Giddey over Wagner, over Bouknight. Like I said, he just has that mix of the upside and being able to help you now.
And I think what we saw that the Warriors were missing over the last couple of years was that other level of playmaking. And you could argue that Josh Giddey is maybe the best playmaker in this draft, right? Just from a pure passing standpoint. At 6'8", he could see every pass on the court. He can make every pass on the court. You watch film on him, man, and what he's able to do from a drive and kick game. He's able to just make those passes from right under the rim, get it out to shooters from every angle. That would have so much value in Golden State's offense, right? Like, you can so easily imagine Andrew Wiggins and Klay Thompson flaring to the corners and Steph Curry being above the break and Giddey being able to find any one of those 3 guys while driving to the basket. Like I said, at 6'8", he can finish at the rim. 31% three-point shooter, but people who I talk to tend to believe that his stroke is fixable, that's something that will improve with time in the NBA. And we've seen this with we just saw this with Wiggins, right? Like, 34% career three-point shooter in Minnesota, shot 38% last year in Golden State because of all the spacing. So you could see maybe something similar happening for Giddey. He could basically be your point guard on the second unit, play Jordan Poole a little bit more off ball as a scoring guard, and then you could play him alongside Steph and Clay and Wiggins and Draymond, not really lose much size, right? I mean, it's still going to be a small ball lineup, but also not losing any playmaking, not really losing a whole lot of athleticism. You'd have some questions as far as the shooting is concerned, but, we've seen this in the past with the guys like Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston. You don't need them to make threes as long as they're able to generate threes for other people. And I think Giddey has all of that potential. I love Josh Giddey. He's one of my favorite players in this draft. I would take him over Kaminga. To be honest, I would probably take him over Book Knight. I don't think that Book Knight is as ready-made as people are saying.
Yeah.
I don't know that the Warriors feel that way. I think you're right. I think that Book Knight is pretty high on their board too, but from what I understand, they really do like Josh Giddey. They think that Giddey is going to play in the NBA for a really long time and does have that upside that you were just talking about, Connor. So I think Giddey is very much in the mix for them at number 7.
And this guy is playing for the Australian national team and more than holding his own at 18 years old. I mean, what he's doing at his age is very impressive. And, you almost never see players at his age doing what he's doing at the level he's doing it at and not become really good NBA players. That never happens.
Right.
There's a body there, body of work.
Body of work, basketball feel, and I always say this about basketball feel. You see a lot of really athletic wings flame out of the NBA all the time, right? You don't really see guys with Giddey, and I've said this about Davion Mitchell. You don't really see guys with their feel not playing in the NBA for a while. Now, they might not have the upside of those other guys, but their bust potential is a lot less. And I would say that the Warriors at number 7 really can't afford a bust, right? Like, they just can't. Bet Online, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your sports action. Baseball season is in full swing, and you can track all of the action at Bet Online. Get all of the latest news, odds, and info for all of your sporting needs, including MLB, NBA, NHL, and all of your UFC and MMA action. Before the next pitch, head over to Bet Online on your laptop or mobile device and check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore. This is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for their runs to the playoffs. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit when you use the promo code LOCKEDON. Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts. Back here with Connor Letourneau from the San Francisco Chronicle on the Tuesday. We've talked about options that the Warriors have at number 7, Connor. One option is, hey, trade the pick. Trade 7, 14, and everything else you need to trade for Bradley Beal.
Is it an option, though?
Well, that's the question, right?
That's the question. I'm not sure it is. I think Bob's been trying to make it an option. I think he's been very disappointed with the lack of response he's gotten.
Well, the Wizards are understandably waiting for Bradley Beal to make that trade request known. And so there have been recent reports indicating that Beal could make a trade request as soon as this week, right? And we're talking here on a Tuesday morning. The draft isn't until Thursday night, so there's still time. And we know that the NBA, things change very, very quickly, right? And things can coalesce and materialize instantly. Let's say Bradley Beal is available, because that to me is a more interesting conversation than trying to guess whether or not he will request that trade and become available. It's a no-brainer, right? The Warriors go all in. 7, 14, James Wiseman, the future first-round picks that they'd be able to offer. You just put it all on the table, and you just wait and see if Washington takes it. I think there are a lot of offers across the rest of the league that would be very competitive. What do you think, Connor, that the Warriors should do? Should they put all the chips on the table?
Yeah, I think if they can get Beal, they should do everything in their power to get Beal, and I don't think they should think twice about it. I understand why there's some trepidation from fans saying, "Oh, you'd be giving up too much," or his skills are kind of duplicative of Steph and Clay and blah blah blah. Look, at the end of the day, the NBA is all about talent, and the Warriors, in my opinion, need another superstar guy to really put themselves over the top. And of every superstar guy that's been mentioned out there as a potential possibility, Beal is the best fit. I think that he would provide something the Warriors have sorely been missing since Kevin Durant left, and that's an offensive bailout. You know, when Steph is facing triple teams and no one else can really get things going, they need someone to just put the team on their back, and that's what Kevin Durant's job was, and why he was so valuable to the Warriors during his 3 years with them. And
I think this would
be that.
I think it would be as seamless a fit as Kevin Durant was. And look, he doesn't have the length and all that stuff. I think there would be, obviously, you're missing something on defense there that Durant would have provided. But as far as an offensive fit, it's as clean as any fit in the league, right? Beal is a 38% career three-point shooter. He could play on and off the ball just with equal efficiency. And you look at some of the advanced stats and some of the ways, some of the shot types that he thrived with. Catch and shoot attempts, he was a 40% catch and shoot shooter. He averaged 42% on pull-up shots. Those are basically right in line with Steph Curry. Steph Curry, a little bit of a better catch and shoot player, but everything else is pretty much right in line. Steph Curry, shots off of screens last year, 3.8 per game. Bradley Beal, 3.3. Beal actually shot better off of screens, 44.4% than Curry at 40%. Off of handoffs, Curry, 2.6 shots off of handoffs per game. Beal, 2 shots off of handoffs per game. Beal shot 47% on those attempts. Curry shot 48.5%. So Beal could do all those things that Steph can do, right? You could just sort of stagger those guys and never really lose that shot-making ability. He's not as prolific from three-point range, obviously, but nobody is. And then you look at where he can sort of fill in those gaps. That thing that you were talking about from Kevin Durant, that shot-making ability, Beal's added value would be in that mid-range area. The Warriors last season ranked 16th in the league with 10.6 mid-range attempts per game. They shot 38.4% on those mid-range attempts, which was near the bottom of the league. Then you take Bradley Beal. He ranked 4th among all players with 5.6 mid-range attempts per game. So that basically Beal took half as many mid-range attempts than the Warriors did as a team per game. And then Beal made 47.4% of those mid-range attempts. That's elite. That's Kawhi. That's Chris Paul level elite. Beal is elite as a shot maker. There's a reason why he was second behind Steph by the slimmest of margins for the scoring title. You would add the 2 top scorers in the league to returning Klay Thompson, and now you would have a scoring trio that would be rivaled only by the Brooklyn Nets with Durant, Harden, and Kyrie. You might lose a little bit defensively. I think Beal is good enough defensively to hold his own. You'd still have Draymond Green in a trade. You'd still presumably have a guy like Kevon Looney to help anchor that back line. I think there's enough there, and if you can go out and score 120 points per game, we're seeing the way that the NBA is trending. That might be the future. You might prefer that level of offense versus a top 5 defense, which we saw how far that got the Warriors this last year.
Yeah, and look, could it blow up in their face? Sure. I mean, Bradley Beal could suffer a career-ending injury a week after the trade is consummated. But the Warriors owe it to themselves to take this kind of big swing. And these types of opportunities don't present themselves very often. And you have to seize the moment when they materialize. And look, there's no guarantees it even will. But if it does, they have to jump. And I honestly think that the package we're talking about to get him, yeah, it's a lot, but it's not absurd.
Look at what
it makes sense for the Warriors to do that move.
Yeah, Harden got 4 first-rounders, 4 pick swaps, 3 first-rounders, 4 pick swaps, something like that. The Milwaukee Bucks, 2 first-rounders, 2 pick swaps. Beal, I think, would be somewhere in the middle of that. And if you're talking about basically Wiggins, Wiseman, 7, 14, you unlock the protections on that Memphis pick that could free up 2 first-rounders. You could basically do 4 first-rounders plus Wiggins and Wiseman. That's a really enticing package if you're Washington and you're looking to rebuild without Beal, right? There's other packages out there, right? Like you would have to strongly consider anything that Toronto could offer. Toronto has the number 4 pick. That is leaps and bounds better than 7 and 14 in this draft, right? Like that is a franchise caliber player than versus what we're talking about at 7. You can get Pascal Siakam, a young player better than anybody that the Warriors could put on the table. And Toronto owns all of their future first rounders, so they could just offer all of them, that they're allowed to offer. and that's a better package. But the other thing with Toronto is they might be waiting for Ben Simmons. They might be waiting for Damian Lillard, right? Like, do they go all in for a guy like Bradley Beal who could be a free agent after next year? And they just did that whole thing with Kawhi. Do they want to do that again, just a one-year rental, or would they rather build a guy around a guy under contract like Simmons or Lillard? That's worth, that's a legit question.
What really matters is not so much the interest from other teams in Beal, because look, everyone and their mother is going to try to put together a package for Beal. Where does Beal want to go? That's what actually matters. Does he want to go to Golden State? Because if he doesn't want to go to Golden State, it really doesn't matter what the Warriors can put together for him. Is he willing to sign an extension with Golden State and give them assurances that he would sign an extension, because he only has 1 year left on his deal? So ultimately, this is a superstar-driven league, and he's going to pick his shot. He's going to choose his shot. So,
and presumably he would leave Washington to go play for a winner, right? Because he's long said that he wants to try to win with the Wizards. But if you're Bradley Beal, you're looking around the NBA and you're like, all right, Milwaukee's got their all-star trio. They just won the finals. Brooklyn is going to be healthy next year, presumably. They're going to be right back in it. Philadelphia might make a move, and who knows what's going to happen over there. You've got the Lakers over there in the Western Conference. We'll see what happens to the Clippers, whatever. Denver is ascending. The Warriors are going to be right back into the mix. You're looking around the league, if you're Bradley Beal, like, there's no way I'm ever going to win with Washington, right? You just got me Russell Westbrook, and we were a play-in team, right? So
the fact that they made the play-in was absolutely incredible too.
Right.
I mean, given where they started, given how they were completely devastated and decimated by the coronavirus early in the season, it's really a testament to Beal.
Yeah, and if you're Beal, you have done enough now in Washington where you can say confidently that you've done all you can. And it wouldn't be a shock if he asked for a trade because he wanted to compete. And if he did ask for a trade, to your point, Connor, I think a team like the Warriors would have to be on his list, because he would presumably be looking to get traded and help form another, sort of super team, right? And I think if you add Beal to the Warriors, he would do that. I think another team is Boston, right? Like him and Jason Tatum, they grew up together near St. Louis. They're really, really good friends. Would he want to go play for Boston? I don't know what Boston would be willing to move. I don't know if they would trade Jaylen Brown for Bradley Beal, because you're kind of trading one all-star type of player for another one. I don't know if that helps them. Or
Jaylen Brown might be a better player, actually.
I mean, he's a two-way player. You could argue it. I would still take Beal over Brown, but I think you could argue Brown's upside, right? Beal is definitely is certainly 5 years older than Jaylen Brown.
But
Bradley Beal trains in Miami over the summers. Does he look at Jimmy Butler?
I know you're a diehard Heat fan. He's not going to Miami. I know you. I saw in your story could go to Miami.
I'm just saying the reports are.
He's not going to Miami, bro.
There's a team. They're just one of the team that's in these reports. So that's all I'm saying. Dallas with Luka Doncic, and here's a wild card for you, Connor. Would Portland just say, you know what, we'll just give you Damian Lillard for Bradley Beal straight up, and we'll try to win Bradley Beal over? Like, I don't know. Worth considering. But there are teams that could put up really good packages. I don't know. But you're right. I think Beal would probably choose his shot. He's got the threat of him leaving as a free agent, right? Not signing an extension, leaving as a free agent, working for him. And you'd have to imagine the Warriors would be on that list. Okay.
But the thing, too, that I just want to say real quick is he's only 28. He's still entering the heart of his prime. He's coming off 2 seasons in which he averaged 30-plus points per game. One of the biggest things he would provide the Warriors is not only would he help them maximize Steph Curry's prime, the rest of Steph Curry's prime, but he would extend their window a bit, and he would help ensure that they would stay relevant long term, because once Steph and Klay and Draymond decline, you would think that Beal's still going to be at a superstar level.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's right. He's right in that age window that would make a lot of sense for them. All right. Are you ready for a Tuesday trivia, Connor?
I am.
All right. So if you're new to this segment as a listener, basically every Tuesday we bring on Connor Letourneau from the San Francisco Chronicle. And one thing that you may not know about Connor is that he has an encyclopedic memory for where dudes went to college. So, flashing back to when Connor and I would sit on Media Row during the season, and I would just point to a random player and be like, where did he go to school? And Connor would just within an instant tell me where that player went to college. I would fact check him. More often than not, he would be right. And when I say that, it's like 99% of the time you would be right. And so we have done this now for the last 4 weeks, I believe. I think we do 5 of them at a time. You're 25-5 or 24 or sorry, 25 out of 20, 24 out of 20 because I'll give you the bonuses that you've been able to do. I think you're 100% on all the bonus questions so far. The only one that you haven't got was James Ennis basically this entire time, which I know you're still upset about. But this and each week we do a theme. This week, with it being the draft week, I went back and looked at some Warriors draft picks. Okay. I've got 5 of them ready to go. Connor, are you ready?
Yes, and this is going to get progressively more difficult, right?
That's the idea.
Okay.
All right. O'Donnell Foyle.
Colgate University.
All right. That was the easy one. You got that. All right.
I've been to Colgate. Nice little campus in upstate New York.
Mikel Petrus.
From France.
Okay.
So you didn't go to college.
That's right. That was a little bit of a trick question. Charles Jenkins.
Charles Jenkins is Hofstra.
Hofstra, 2011 second round pick, number 44 overall. Charles Jenkins.
The Pride.
Patrick O'Brien.
Bradley. He was on that Sweet 16 team that that was kind of a feel-good story that year, the Cinderella team, and he had like 2 good games in the tournament and then went top 10, which was a complete joke. He was not an NBA player. One of the worst picks ever.
Last one. Chris Gatling.
Man. The first 4 were so easy. and then you get a freaking Chris Gatling.
1991 first round pick in 16th overall. The one and only Chris Gatling.
Wow. Okay. I honestly don't know. NC State?
No. You went to Old Dominion.
I wouldn't have gotten that one. I wouldn't have gotten that one. Wow. Okay. You got me on that one. 1991.
Yeah.
All right.
Gave you one from 30 years ago.
I was 1 year old.
Gave you one from 30 years ago. I wanted to test your knowledge. I wanted to see.
I was feeling the first 4 were so easy.
The old bait and switch.
Oh, man.
The old bait and switch. I did not have a bonus one ready for you this week. I forgot to do it.
Okay.
So no bonus.
Just pick
So 4 out of 5.
Pick one now. Pick one. I'm going to put you on the spot here.
You want me to just pick a random name off the basketball reference page here?
Yeah. One that you don't recognize. So someone in a somewhat modern NBA. Okay, like 1990 forward.
I gave you 1991.
I know, but that was tough.
Thing is, the Warriors don't have that many picks. All right, you want to go? I'll let you choose between 2008 and 2005.
2008.
Richard Hendricks.
Alabama.
Oh, there you go. Second round pick, 49th overall, 2008. Richard Hendricks. Hendricks with an X.
Do 2005 real quick. I just want to redeem myself, flex a little bit.
Chris Taft.
Pittsburgh.
All right. You get the bonus. 5 out of 5. There you go. Good job, Connor. That'll do it for Locked On Warriors. Thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks to Connor Letourneau, of course, for joining me. You can follow all of Connor's work over at the San Francisco Chronicle. He's doing a great job with draft coverage over there. Remember to subscribe to Locked On Warriors on YouTube. Subscribe, follow wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening. We'll see you here tomorrow.